Hello, you're listening to the OmniTalk Fast 5, brought to you in partnership with Microsoft, the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Takeoff, Sezzle, and Silk.
We take off where we kind of have to, I think, Ann.
Oh, God.
And that is the big merger news.
I mean, you have to give them credit. This was a wow shocker headline last week, but now I feel like it's everywhere. Everybody's talking about this.
Yeah, it's kind of blasé at this point, right?
Like the
analysis too, potentially.
No
pressure, guys.
We are going to have an excellent analysis today, Chris, because if you didn't hear, if you've been living under a rock, Kroger is merging with Albertsons. Last Friday, Kroger announced through a press release that it will acquire all of the outstanding shares of Albertsons companies, common and preferred stock, for an estimated total consideration of $34.10 per share, implying a total enterprise value of approximately $24.6 billion, including the assumption of approximately $4.7 billion of Albertson companies' net debt. So in addition, Albertson companies will also pay a special cash dividend of up to $4 billion to its shareholders. The resulting purchase price represents a premium of approximately 33% of the unaffected closing price of Albertson Company's common stock on October 12th, 2022. Holy buckets.
Wow. Nicely done, though.
That was a lot of
content that you just squeezed in there. Yeah.
Chad, we're going to go to you first, my friend. Nothing like jet setting across the country and then getting up first thing in the morning to talk about Kroger and Albertsons merger. What do you think of this move, Chad?
Getting back from the West Coast is nothing compared to some of the jet lagged Fast Fives that you guys have done. So that's
fair enough.
And I don't drink coffee, so you guys are like my natural adrenaline. So we're all good here.
If only you could bottle the Fast Five energy, Chris.
And I've never been someone's natural adrenaline.
No,
that's a first for me.
I think Chad's just like, it's like fluff.
He's talking crazy already, right?
He's trying to like kill time about the merger that we got to talk about.
All right, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've only had a week to prepare for this one by the time it actually got released, right? But man, so many angles to go with this, right? And as you talked about, a lot of different perspectives that have been out there. So, I mean, I guess kind of first blush reaction just on the retail landscape more broadly, right? I mean, by the numbers, it's interesting. You're combining these massive entities, number 2 and number 3 in the market, really the only 2 pure play national grocers, but combined, they're still less than 15% of the US market.
Right.
This deal could actually go through because of 2 factors, right? The fragmentation of just this sector overall and the size of Walmart, right? And so that's really interesting, but maybe to take this kind of a different direction. For me, the one thing that was kind of hard to miss from this was the stated objective and desire to compete better with Walmart and how this may actually help drive lower prices versus typical antitrust concerns of rising prices. Right. And so, I'm going to look at this from a CPG perspective, right? So what does that imply? Pressure on suppliers. So actually had the time, did a little research, asked a couple CPG guys and national account leaders that I know kind of what they thought about this. And I'd say the general sentiment was kind of a half dose of nervousness and a half dose of excitement. So kind of what's exciting? The whole deal is generally thought of as good for the grocery business to kind of give Walmart and Amazon, and interestingly enough, Amazon was thrown in there, kind of a run for their money. And thinking about that through the lenses of investments in the space, technology innovation, store updates, data personalization, just generally a more consolidated ecosystem in which you can rep your products, right? Net good.
Yeah, right.
But the nerves around the pricing pressures on suppliers is very real. And so what I was generally hearing from folks was that it's becoming more important for CPGs to make investments in their analytics and their revenue and margin management teams and capabilities to be better equipped kind of for these negotiations as they're coming down the pipe in order to provide enhanced ways to provide value for retail customers. So, kind of timely plug in a way, just in the last 24 hours, we had CRG published a piece that kind of gives a peek under the hood at our approach to sort of this revenue and margin management plan, which is effectively kind of a cross-functional approach of driving growth through pricing, promo, trade, price pack architecture, all of that. And when done right, it's pretty unique in its ability to look at driving a program through the lens of not only your own financial viability, but the retailer economics and consumer proposition. And anyway, long story short, I mean, that's exactly what I'm hearing from the CPG leaders that their organizations need to invest in. So kind of, a two-sided coin in terms of how they're reacting.
Yeah. Tale of two cities, really. What do you think here? You want to jump in here? You have anything to add to what Chad said?
Jump in. Chad stole some of my comments, but I'm going to take it in a slightly different direction. I am, the one thing I have been curious in the last 24 hours is where the regulators are going to take this. So where is this going to end up? Chad said this is less than 15% of market share. So it's not going to go the way that the Walgreens Rite Aid situation went. So it's not going to get approved, but it's not going to get approved, I think, in the way that it's set up right now. I personally was curious to see what's going to happen with their idea that they pitched on this thing called the SpinCo. So this is where they're going to put all of so rather than shutting down stores, they're saying,
right, the divestiture.
Right? It's like stores. And they're going to give shares to the shareholders of kind of the separate entity. And they're creating they're pitching it as an agile, but also, I guess, it maintains competitiveness in the marketplace. And there are some specific areas in the US where they are the majority together, right? And so I'm kind of curious where this is going to end up and how much is a PR play and how much is it actually going to be kind of like a business play at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the other points I'd bring up, and to the question you asked Chad, would be, I agree with everything those guys just said, both of you guys just said, but for me, like the 5,000 stores is really compelling because that puts you on par with Walmart essentially. And then the other things too, Ocado's tech comes into play here for Albertsons and Safeway for the first time, really. Which is interesting for our part, our sponsors Takeoff too, because Takeoff's, done a lot of work with Albertsons. So it's curious to see how that's going to play out.
Right.
And then the last point too is this gives more scale to the retail media network, which is the number one thing grocers are doing to offset the margin loss from the digital penetration that we're seeing in the marketplace. And that to me makes it fundamentally a really compelling move too, ultimately at the end of the day. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what's been said. I think you can pick any angle here to really dissect. There's so much here. What I'm really going to be watching closely though, is there's been a ton of comparison to Walmart in this deal. I mean, really getting them to the scale. I think it's interesting to hear that Chad's CPG friends are considering Amazon in this set too. It's not just about Walmart, but how they're going to compete against Amazon. Yeah. And we are not hearing as much about that in the reporting of this merger. The question that I wonder is, yes, you are the size now of Walmart, but that's a lot of banners to coordinate. Even when you're talking about rolling out tech, when you're talking about supply chain and distribution and how the hub and spoke 100%. Facilities that Kroger's building come into play here, retail media and real estate. Like in a lot of places, you have like an Albertsons and Kroger, like right down the street from one another in some of the markets that they're in too. So I think like that's another thing that I'm interested to see, like how does all of this consolidation of these brands under one umbrella, how long does that take before you are actually competing the way that Walmart can in that streamlined level?
Yeah. And I think your point about Amazon's really interesting too, because they are sleeping on the sideline here.